Hi everybody, I'm Andy Hutchinson with Salt and Sass Games, and I'm here at Canada Plays 2025, presented by Asmodee. I'm here with Dr. Leah Martinez, Sustainability Project Manager at Asmodee, and Melanie Wattier, Vice President of Marketing and Purchasing from Asmodee Canada, formerly Global Director of Sustainability for Asmodee. Today we're going to talk about how scientific research funded by Asmodee and presented at the Game & Lab conference at Canada Plays is shedding light on the connections between board games and the development of cognitive and social skills. We'll look at 3 recent studies to discover how gameplay influences learning, attention, and group dynamics with concrete findings that can inspire players, families, game designers, and the broader board game community. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So we're going to jump right in. So we have some important things we'd like to talk about today. So Melanie, I'm going to start by directing these questions to you. Sure. Okay. So to start, can you tell me a bit about why Asmodee is so committed to research and board games?
Yes. So as leaders in the industry of board games, tabletop gaming, card games, we have an opportunity, but we also have a responsibility towards our communities. So whether the game design community, the players themselves, the retailers, we have an influence that we can bring, and that's something that's really important to us. We know that games are a lot more than entertainment. They're a cultural medium, they're a tool for connection, they're a tool for development, and as we'll learn from Dr. Martinez, a tool for cognitive development. So it's really important for us to take the means that we have through the research community and really develop and bring to the industry what we're able to find.
Fantastic, thank you. Additionally, how is the research useful for Asmodee?
It's really a tool for us that we're able to use to change the conversation around board games. When we talk about board games, we often talk about the product, the mechanics, the game designers, the studios, the awards that those games win based on the innovation of the game itself. We're not necessarily talking so much about the impact and the benefits that those games have. So what it allows us to do is talk about it in terms of a tool to bring the benefits of board games, but also we use the research to help inform how we're going to be innovative and creative in the games that we design so that we can be more inclusive and accessible in those games.
Right, and this is really important for those who maybe didn't know as much and what was that research was being used for. So thank you for clarifying. Thanks. And why is this going right into? Why is this research important for the industry?
So it's that new lens. So it's really about starting to shift the focus. We know there's a lot of video game research.
Right.
Until recently, there was very, very little research on board games. So it's people like Leah and people that we work with in the scientific community through Game & Lab that are bringing these insights in a way that they never existed before. So it's helping bring in healthcare professionals, educators who are such a huge resource to the value of games, bringing them into the conversation and changing how we interact with the different players in the community.
Well, thank you so much, Melanie, for being here and giving us that insight. We're going to continue the interview with Dr. Leah Martinez. So can you tell me a little bit about Game & Lab?
Sure. Game & Lab is a dedicated program to support scientific research on board game. It has been created by Asmodee and a French nonprofit in 2018.
Okay.
So each year we have a call for research project. So we support and we fund 3 to 5 projects on any topic, any disciplines related to board games. And we also organize conferences, like scientific conferences, to disseminate the knowledge that we gathered on board games. So this is something that we do at Canada Plays also.
Okay, amazing.
And so since the beginning, we have funded more than 25 projects, and we have supported or organized more than 30 events.
Wow.
So this is like the supporting research program at Asmodee.
Okay, good. I feel like not a lot of people may know about it, so this is a nice way to get more information.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, and we're going to jump right into some questions.
Okay.
So, how do board games engage essential skills like concentration, adaptability, and decision making?
So there's a lot to say.
There's a lot there, so please take your time.
So for now, there is not too much research on modern board games, so let's say non-traditional board games, and cognitive skills or academic skills. But we can say for sure that when we play, we have to focus. So the main hypothesis is that when we play, we will engage all our attention skills, and that it will probably help to develop these skills. And another hypothesis is that when we play, we engage our executive skills, which are the skills that we use when we have to adapt in new situations. So when you play a game and when you have to set your strategy or to be flexible, this is all about this executive function. And of course, when we play board games, we are playing with other people, with other players, so it's also all about the social interaction and the social skills. So something that we can say for sure is that when we play, we have to engage our attention, our cognitive skills, and also some social and emotional skills. But we are still working on how does this work exactly, and how certain specific board games will improve or engage certain specific cognitive skills.
Perfect. Thank you. And how do you envision the future of board gaming in educational and therapeutic contexts?
So I think, I don't know the exact figures, but more and more teachers are using board games at school. And I think it's the same in therapy. Board games are used a lot. So I think research shows that there is like a new generation, of teachers. That there are probably teachers that are used to play games, so they can see the potential of board games and they are willing to use it at school. So I think we have a responsibility as researchers or as industry to support more research on this topic, to give more information to the teacher or to the therapist so that they can understand what's going on when we play, because they have their expertise in the field. Right. And we can bring more, let's say, maybe objective evidence, some proof that can be more generalized with research. So I think this is what we can bring to all these teachers and therapists that will keep on using the games.
So as a teacher, as I was a teacher, we always had gamification in the classroom, but it was just something we did because we played games, like you were saying, as we were younger, but it was never official.
Yeah.
It was something we just decided to do. So it's nice to hear that. And I don't know if it's official is the right word, but something that's at least being documented.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Throughout your career, what has been the most surprising or impactful insight you've gained from studying the role of games in social and educational settings?
So I think I can say two things.
Okay.
The first one is that it's amazing to maybe envision how only one game can have various impacts on players. So let's say you play Dixit.
Yep.
If you play Dixit once, maybe it will boost your creativity. But if you play Dixit every day, it will not make you an artist.
Right.
And if you play Dixit when you're a child or when you're an adult or when you're with your family or with your friends, we can, or depending on your condition or your background, we can imagine various different impacts. So it means various different studies to conduct. So this is something that I found amazing. And the second thing is that the relationship between board games and players is really a correlation. So we are talking a lot about how board games will impact the players' learning and cognition, etc. But we really also have to understand that players have their own cognition, their own functioning, and that will also influence and impact their practice and how they play and board games in general.
Yeah, that's a valid point. So I can't wait to get a little bit more into this later. And are there differences in how board games affect the cognitive function of children versus adolescents and young adults in settings?
The main hypothesis in research is that when you have leisure activity, either as a child or as a senior, you will have the most benefits because children are still in this cognitive development.
Right.
And senior can sometimes leave some cognitive decline or decreasing. So these are probably the periods when you will have the most benefits if you play games. We don't have results on board games. This is an hypothesis. And during my PhD, I've noticed that when, let's say, teenager or young adults played the same puzzle game, they did not engage the same cognitive function. The children engaged their attention skills, they had to be focused to play, while the young adults engaged their mental flexibility. It was like they were already focused, so they had the ability to be more flexible and set up their strategies. Right. So, we can see some differences, but we need more studies and research on this topic.
Absolutely. So what are some future areas of study you'd like to see with respect to board games in the academic setting?
All areas.
I should have known that was going to be the answer.
So, as I said just before, we are at the beginning of the research on modern board games. So we really need more research information, research results, so that we can say for sure, okay, when we play, this happens, and we can see and observe this, and it will help for all this trend to use board game in class, in therapy, at home, etc. And so we need more studies and more results in any area.
Right, absolutely. I thought that might be the answer, but I have to ask. Perfect. So we'll get to what you're studying or what you're talking about in your study. Can you give us an overview of your study?
Yeah, absolutely. So I did a PhD on the effect of playing board games on cognition in, let's say, teenagers and young adults. So I've studied this correlation between playing board games and cognitive skills, especially attention and executive skills. I've also studied what is going on right after we play. So what is the effect of one board game session on the cognitive state? And I've also studied what are the conditions that help to observe this impact of the board games on cognition.
Okay, that sounds like it's a lot that you're taking a look at.
Yeah, so as I say it seems like it's a lot. So a PhD is during 3 years, so I had some time to work on this different topic, but it was really specific. When I say that I work on one board game session, I only studied one type of board game, and we would need more studies on each of this topic.
Okay, understood. Thank you. According to your study on the effects of playing board games on cognitive functioning, the main results indicate that positive links can be observed between playing board games and cognitive functions, depending on certain conditions. Can you tell me more about those positive links?
Absolutely. So we observed that the frequency of play and the scores in games are positively related to executive skills, so especially the inhibition and the mental flexibility, but also to some attention skills, especially the visual spatial skills, so it's the ability to find some visual information in the space.
Right.
And this was also related to the mathematics skills in general. And about this one board game session, we found out that having spot-it-like board game session had a positive impact on the visual spatial attention. It is like really an immediate impact, and it also brings some impulsivity.
Of course.
So you're better, but you're doing sometimes too fast, So this was some results that we got.
Okay, well, sounds fun, but also shows you a lot of how people are, how they behave, right? The behaviors.
Yeah, absolutely.
In your work, you've used several games with adolescents and young adults. What are your conclusions about tabletop game use or interventions in academic settings?
So during my PhD, I met students in their schools directly because it was easier, but I did not organize some board game interventions. I did not have an organization with teachers and So I think this is a perfect transition to Dr. Georgia Moya Igueras.
Okay, of course.
study.
And funny enough, that is my next question for you. So, can you describe the main aim of Professor Igueras' research?
Yeah. So George and his team worked on how playing board games at school in children helped to develop the cognitive skills, but also academic skills. So they met children at school, they assessed their cognitive and academic skills, and after that they held organized a setup with the teachers so that children at school in class could play board games for several weeks. So it was like about 1 hour per week for about 7 weeks.
Okay.
And after that, they tested again their cognitive and academic skills so that they can compare if there was an improvement after the board game training.
Right.
Actually, they observed that after this board game training, children had better executive skills in general, but also some better academic skills such as the reading or mathematics skills. And they, of course, also noticed some better social, cross-disciplinary skills. And they had a specific study with ADHD children, and they noticed that these children had fewer conduct problems after playing board games.
As someone who has ADHD, I can see the correlation. I can see this. So this is something I would definitely want to know more about. So more questions to come. Okay, so what behavioral problems do board games reduce?
So they noticed that so they had like a control group, so children who classically attend classes. They noticed that in these children there were along the year, the academic year, more conduct or behavior problems such as arguments or fights, things like that.
Right.
But in the children who had the board game training, they noticed fewer of these behaviors, and their interpretation is that they could have a better control, emotional control, because they learned how to play together. They learned how to manage the social interaction with other children and players during the board game.
That's really great to hear, because I know oftentimes children or people who are neurodivergent can sometimes be quick to frustration.
Yeah.
So it's really nice that something like gaming can diffuse that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how does teaching through games enhance interest, participation, and allow students to be more involved in their learning? Because that can be challenging.
Yeah. So research shows that it's all about motivation.
Right.
So having a game in school during class is really motivating for the children if it's clear for them why we use this game. So while they play, there will be some implicit learning. So, it just flows naturally and they have these learnings. But you can also have some explicit learnings, and it can become really a game-based learning process.
Right.
During which the teacher will say, okay, we will use this game so that you will learn this, mathematical
Right,
skill.
like a specific objective,
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if you make sure that the children enjoy the game session, understand why we can use the game to have a learning, and if they understand how they learn during the game, you will have some benefits because they find it motivating.
Were you looking at all kind of subjects, or was it just very specific subjects?
So what I'm saying here
Yes.
is what research says in general.
In general. Thank you.
Absolutely. So
Okay.
I did not focus especially on motivation in my study, but
Understood.
other studies are really all about how playing board game is motivating for children.
Just as a general.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. No, thank you for the clarification. Can you tell us a little bit about Je Metacogite program and study?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Je Metacogite is a study conducted by Annick Pelletier. So, Annick Pelletier is an educational therapist in Quebec, actually.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, and so she conducted a study in children aged about 9-10 years old. And so she studied how playing board games at school can help these children have better metacognitive and executive and academic skills. So in this study, Annick and the researchers she worked with compared 4 groups of children. The first one learned how their brain works, actually, and then they applied this learning through board game sessions. So they had like a metacognition plus board game training. In the other group, they had either the metacognition training, so they only learn how their brain works, and in the third group, they had like only the board game sessions, so the board game training. And finally, there was a control group, so children that classically attend classes. And they compared this different group and how playing board games and learn more stuff, on your brains can help the children to have better learnings.
Okay, fantastic. So were neurodivergent children included in the research? This is something I always ask in these types of interviews. So were they included?
So yeah, I know that the researchers include any children in this study. They met children at school and some children were neurodivergent, yeah.
Oh, okay, that's great. Sometimes people don't talk about it, so it's good to know that that was a little bit of a focus.
Yeah.
So did the research show any differences between neurotypical and neurodivergent children?
So the researchers noticed that neurodivergent children at the pretest had lower executive skills compared to neurotypical children. And after the Je Métacogite program, so after they learned about how their brain worked and after they applied this learning in the board game session, they had all children, neurotypical and neurodivergent children, had an improvement in their executive skills, and neurodivergent children had a higher improvement than neurotypical children. So I think this is an amazing finding, but to have more information about this, we will have to wait the scientific publication of the researcher.
Okay, which I'm very excited to know more about. Okay. What were the areas of greatest improvement for the Je Métacogite group?
So for the children that were in the Je Métacogite group, so with the learning and the board game session, they had the greatest improvement in the executive skills in general.
Okay.
But they had also a great and the greatest improvement in the perceived self-efficacy, which I think is really great because, sometimes it's all about the cognitive skills, academic skills, etc. But self-efficacy is really related to self-confidence. So it's all about the well-being of children and their social achievement, if I can say. So I think this is really important and what should matter most when we talk about children and their development. So I think it's a great finding.
Wonderful that you're focusing that. I feel like a lot of people miss that. You're so focused on the information.
Yeah.
What you're talking about is a huge part of what we go through as children, right? So finally, how do you think the Métacogite research could be used in schools going forward?
Well, I think all schools could use, this Je Métacogite program.
Yeah.
So before we have the power, to change the curriculum.
Yes.
Maybe we can say to all teachers or educators or therapists that teach children how their brain work can be really helpful for their executive, academic, and academic skills. This is what the research shows. It's like their superpower. They can learn that they are able to learn and to learn faster than adults. So this is fun and great. And teachers should also know that if children can apply their learning in an everyday life activity, this is great, so that they can say, okay, so I've learned that and can apply it, I understand more, and board games can be a good tool to do.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, that is wonderful. I'm so excited to hear what you and Nick Pelletier are also doing. Very excited to know more. So if people want to know more or get some more contact information to get in contact with Nick Pelletier or with you, I think there's going to be a little link down here that tells you that you can go to Game in Lab. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Exactly. So if you want more information, follow the link and you can get that there. So thank you so much to Dr. Leah Martinez for being here, and we'll see you all next time. Bye.